Okay, thanks, Andrew. And thank you, everyone. Well, be prepared for a slightly different kind of a presentation now. And I really appreciate this opportunity to share with you and introduce to you a new web portal from the Rangelands Partnership. This has been 2 years in the making. Besides a tour, you're going to be the first ones actually to get a tour of this website. I'll give you a little bit, start out with a little bit of background about the partnership. And so let me share my screen and get that up. Oh, sorry, I've got to get rid of some of these floating panels. And I'll make sure that everybody can see that. Is that good? Thanks.
You're good.
Thanks, Aaron.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, great. So I'll start out with a little bit about the partnership and its history, and then we'll go right into the gateway. So this initiative began, if you can believe it, back in 1995 as a University of Arizona library project that was partnering with the National Agricultural Library in DC and the Rangelands program. And this ended up developing a first kind of prototype World Wide Web website called Managing Rangelands. But after about 5 years of building that, we think successfully, and gaining a fair number of competitive grants to do it, we invited other Western land-grant universities to join in what was first called the Western Rangelands Partnership, largely because the issues surrounding rangelands, as you all know, do not stop at political boundaries. And we recognized that we really needed some help to cover all those issues. With the support of many people and taking both a top-down and bottom-up approach, we successfully held the first meeting in Tucson in 2002. And for the next 10 years, we held our annual Rangelands Partnership meetings in Tucson. But after that, we started moving around through all the land-grant universities. So we hope next year to be in person again after 2 years of being virtual, but to be back in person at Colorado State in 2022. Some of the partnership's unique features are that it's largely a collaboration, not only of range extension specialists and range professors, but also librarians and technologists. Essentially, we're all volunteers who believe we can accomplish more working together than we can individually. However, the partnership has evolved also into more of a community of practice with a focus on networking and professional development. In addition, members have become involved in a level of international engagement, especially around the effort to gain an international year of rangelands and pastoralists. The Rangelands Gateway now combines 4 levels of websites. So you already heard Andrew speak about global rangelands. Well, this is global rangelands that you see on the screen. Behind it are really a number of sites, including Rangelands West, which was more of a focus on the Western region and state sites, as well, and this is an example of the Arizona current. Well, actually, it's almost not current, Arizona Rangelands website. And then we also had a member site that included all of the information about our annual meetings, our publications, our grants, our just organizational structure publications. And that was actually hosted by the University of Wyoming. What we've done now is to combine all 4 of these websites into the one Rangelands Gateway. It really became quite unwieldy in the last few years to deal with so many websites, and it wasn't as user-friendly as we'd like it to be. So we went through this really incredibly intensive redesign process that went through many stages with our IT unit, as well as gaining feedback from stakeholders at various points. So here you see the new homepage. The navigation panel on the left stays visible no matter where you are in the website. So we're hoping that that'll really make this much more user-friendly. You can scroll down through all of the different sections by just taking your cursor and moving down through the website, or you can navigate by using the functions in the navigation panel. The main action that you can take on the home page is to search the database of more than 25,000 resources, including collections emanating from the Society of Range Management, the Australian Rangelands Society, and other organizations. However, the SRM journals make up the largest percentage of the database records. And again, this is all free. The idea is to make this as accessible to everyone as possible. You can see here that the left-hand navigation highlights where you are when you're moving through the website. So we're hoping that helps people not get lost. When you click on the first one, which is library collections, you'll see the list of 11 collections and a description of them. Collections include journal articles, reports, documents of all kinds, and multimedia resources that have come from the land-grant university members. One new feature is that on the homepage search, you can actually access more than what are in the database. You can access the documents and resources that are on the state pages, which I'm going to show you in just a minute, as well as through the other searchable databases. Anyway, the idea is that this new technology allows the database to go in and scrape our other websites so that we don't have to enter them one by one into the database. And that makes this a much more powerful search than we've ever had before. So here's an example of what a search looks like from the collections page. I put in the terms livestock and Arizona, not knowing what I would find, because we are still tweaking the search function. But as you see here, the results included one of the proceedings from the 36th Range Livestock Workshop that was held in 2014. These were provided, the reason these are here are because of Doug Tolson. And we do rely on members and all of you to let us know about content that you would like to have included in the database. Now that the Rangelands Gateway is up, the focus is in the next few years will be on content development, and we welcome your suggestions. The next major section provides access to state-level Rangelands websites that used to be called Rangelands West. More than half of the state sites are hosted by the Arizona technical team and use the same template as a result. Most of the states have members who maintain these state sites, but there are a few that the Arizona team is managing until new partners are identified. The partnership is old enough now that we actually have people retiring and changing jobs. So sometimes we don't have somebody immediately to take their place. So we're always open to new membership. And if you know of anybody who's interested, feel free to contact us. An example of the University of Arizona hosted state site is the Arizona Rangelands, of course. Home pages start with a pretty photo and are followed by sections of contents, as you'll see in this next screen. So if you scroll down through the screen, the page of Arizona Rangelands, these are the resources that you'll see. All the state-hosted sites have the possibility of featuring highlights to new important resources that you want to bring to the attention of your users. Also, you can include announcements and events, as well as a list of more general resources and other web links. In addition, there are featured videos, podcast feeds, and a selection of key items from the database, as well as quick access to searching more of the database. Finally, there are links back to the partnership's social media outlets, which I'll show you in a bit. So here you see two examples of other state-hosted websites, Washington and Hawaii being those examples. But there are also websites that we just linked to. For instance, the Colorado State Livestock and Range Extension website is the one that we link to and that we include in the database. And then, of course, actually, California in general is a totally different example because there are multiple institutions that are involved in rangelands and there are many different academic programs. And so we have an interim page to provide access to all of those resources from California. The next section of the Rangelands Gateway has been developed over the past 10 years through a number of externally funded projects. The idea has been to provide summary information on topics that inform the full discipline of rangelands management. Besides an overview, Introduction to Rangelands in the World, there are 6 major topics, each with multiple subtopics that were defined by members with rangeland specializations. Aaron will be showing you one of these topics, one of these subtopics actually, that's been developed to a higher degree than the others, and that is now our new template for updating each topic and subtopics. In the next slide, you'll see how some of these topics are organized. This is actually one that also Aaron worked on, which was large landscape conservation. This is more similar to the earlier versions of our topic pages. And you'll see here that we have a summary introduction. We have subtopics with further information about them. In the newer topics, what we're focusing on is adding more multimedia content, including interviews and videos made by the partnership. This section has information and links to web pages about current and past projects funded in large part through competitive grants. The first one you see here is a new tool that hasn't really been formally launched yet, but it's called Range Docs, and it's being developed through an NRCS Conservation Innovation Grant. This tool will include, in fact, I think it already includes a number of key documents that are going to total 70 in the end that are indexed at the paragraph level, which means that you can search for extremely specific information within a document, so that in the idea that this will be much more practically beneficial to people in the field. And it also has an interface that works off of an iPhone or a cell phone. Also, here is the second project here was funded by RREA National Focus Fund grant to develop a brush management toolkit. Other projects are included on this page, as well as a link to an archive list of all the projects that have been received by the partnership since it began. One project that is close to finishing is another RREA funded project that has offered a series of 9 webinars on topics related to the current RREA strategic plan. The website provides access to the 1-hour webinar recordings, each with 3 speakers from across the country, plus additional handouts and links to more information, as well as a discussion board. And I really suggest that you go back if you're interested in engaging youth in natural resources. Elise gave a super presentation just last week for this, for the last webinar, and it's available already as a recording. So I suggest you go see it. Okay, the tools section links the user to 3 websites that were developed as part of a USDA Higher Education Challenge grant. The Rangelands Partnership team created the websites, but the grant was implemented by members of the Range Science Education Council affiliated with SRM. These include a teaching clearinghouse of PowerPoints and other resources that could be used for teaching, a list of distance courses from various universities, and a careers in education website. Also is a link to the SRM glossary of rangeland terminology, which does need to be updated, but it is available at least in its earlier form, and to the Rangelands Partnership's YouTube video channel. And finally, a work in progress right now is a new monitoring resource, and we hope to have that up within the next month. This is just to show you one of the examples of those higher education challenge grant websites. The Careers in Education was developed primarily by Susan Marshall at Humboldt State in California. There are some really useful videos here about career opportunities, plus information about where to look for jobs. Reflecting the partnership's growing interest in international collaboration, we also have a section with links to the major initiatives that are currently ongoing. This includes the recently initiated Global Grasslands Dialogue platform. as well as the upcoming combined International Rangelands and Grasslands Congress that will be held in October, hopefully in person in Nairobi, but perhaps virtually, and other international collaborators. In particular, there are 2 International Year of Rangelands and Pastoralists websites that the U of A team manages. One is an archive site that includes documents from the past 5 years of working towards a vote that's going to be held at the UN General Assembly this coming September, as well as an online booth website that we developed because we couldn't meet in person and we needed some way to alert our ambassadors and all of the people that needed to be convinced that an international year was important. So we created a specific website for that. And this next slide gives you a sense of what that looks like. On the right is the top of the homepage and the left is the bottom section as you scroll down. If you haven't viewed the opening video, it truly is a wonderful short piece made by a German film producer in collaboration with a Mongolian NGO. It is really a lovely piece about the importance of rangelands and pastoralism. As you see, the world is represented by contributed photos and videos from all over, with sections for 9 regional groupings. There are also resource sections for each region where minutes from the regional support group meetings are available and other marketing materials. There we have quite a number of different online flyers that you can use and adapt for your own purposes. These groups have only recently formed, these support groups that are regional in focus, and many of them are just meeting for the first time. If successful, these groups, if we are successfully gain the International Year designation in September, which we believe we will, these groups will then continue to develop educational programming and other activities at national and regional levels until and through the actual International Year, which will be in 2026. For information about the Rangelands Partnership, including mission, vision, technology, collaborators, operational documents, there are icons further to the left that provide access to this information. The previous member site has not been fully brought over yet, but it will be located here as you see the links in the drop-down in the left panel. Soon there will be links to the annual meeting presentations and handouts, list of publications about the partnership and its projects, as well as technical guides and marketing materials. This is mostly for internal use for the partnership, but it is a place to find out more about it. Finally, as mentioned above, the partnership, largely under the direction of the Arizona Tech team, offers several social media outlets. The most active are the Facebook page and the YouTube Global Rangelands channel. However, there is a Twitter account too. We hope you will go to these outlets and do like us sometime soon if you haven't already. So I'm just going to end with it to remind you all that really the important feature of the Rangelands Partnership is its high level of collaboration. On behalf of all of us at the Arizona Rangelands on the team at Arizona, I thank you for your attention tonight. At the same time, this website and its many offshoot projects would not happen without many people working together in a cooperative process. If you would like to know more about the partnership, or you have content that you would like added to the database, or you would like to subscribe to our monthly e-newsletter that you see on the screen on this slide, please contact me at the email address there. There are contact forms on the website too, and I should have put the website address again here. It is it's just rangelandsgateway.org. I'll get this right yet. Sorry. It's not, I am not a night person, as most people will tell you, so thanks for bearing with me.
Oh, that's excellent. Thank you so much. And just for also for our 4 phone call listeners, again, Rangelands
Gateway.org.
One word, Rangelands Gateway.org. So Anyway,
I can put that in the chat too. Sorry about that.
oh, I've already done that. It's been in.
Oh, good. All right, great.
You bet.
Thanks.
I'm right on it for you. But then I got
Super.
an email from a phone person. Okay, so I don't see any questions right now, but I know that we could certainly move on to let Andrew, well, you already introduced Aaron, so we could let Aaron go. And then if we have questions at the end, we can go from there. So Aaron, you're on, except you're.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to present here tonight. I'm going to continue talking about some of the resources that are available on the Rangelands Gateway website, but I'm going to narrow in on a specific topic area that's probably of most interest to the folks on the call here. So I'll be talking about the resources that we have available related to public lands and public lands grazing, and then especially about resources related to the National Environmental Policy Act, or NEPA, which is a pretty important policy that affects a lot of ranchers, especially those ranchers that are using Forest Service or BLM lands as a part of their grazing operations. So let's see. So just to again, Barb talked about this, but just to give you a sense of where things live on the website. So I'll be talking about public lands, which lives under the uses of range and pasture land section on the website. So all the resources that I'll be talking about are under that uses of rangelands section. And then once you get into that uses of rangelands section, you'll see some different resources come up. So there's a home page that talks about basic, scope of what we'll be talking about in this section, or the information that you can find in this section of the website. And then drilling down to specifically to the public lands grazing section. Again, we'll give you more information about what public lands grazing is generally, and then what to expect from the section of the website. And something to note here is that this website is really designed for with two different audiences in mind. So we have a section of the website with information that will be of interest to ranchers and folks working in range management, but also will be of interest to the general public as a whole, and kind of introduce people to public lands grazing, the history of public lands grazing, how the public land grazing system works, and ecological impacts of grazing, and a full range of things related to that. But we also have a section that's really geared towards the ranching community, and that section focuses on policy and regulations around public lands grazing, and especially the NEPA process and the appeals process associated with NEPA. And so you can, kind of drill down through multiple levels in this website and get to more and more detailed information. So at the bottom level, in terms of just the kind of general information about public lands, you get to a page that just gives you some basic information about public lands, gives you access to some videos and other content to learn more about public lands grazing and the management of public lands. And they link together with other parts of the website so you can get to more information easily. So I'll kind of go through how we develop this and what sort of information we're providing. The first thing that we wanted to do is not think about this as scientists. So scientists, myself, other folks here at the university, we tend to think about things from kind of the, big picture. What is the context of a problem? What is the context of a research question, or whatever it is we're trying to learn about? Then how do we do something to learn more about it? So what are our methods? And then finally, we get to the results. And that, generally speaking, isn't how most people think about information or want to receive their information. So we tried to flip that over and provide information in a way that was more accessible and got you the information that you wanted more quickly. So instead of having to learn a whole bunch of background about things to start with, we started by providing highlights. And so the results, or the most important information, is provided right at the top of these pages. And then we provide some additional context about why those things are important, or how we learned those things, or where to find more information about those things. And then finally, we provide all kinds of other resources for learning more about things. So you can start out by by getting the highlights, and then depending on how interested you are, you can drill down deeper and get more and more information as you work through the site. And this goes for the overall structure of the site, but also the structure of each individual page on the site. So in terms of how the information is provided, we try to provide those highlights first. In terms of what you can get from this section, so I mentioned we have two different parts of the website that are emphasizing different types of information. So the first part of the site is really for everybody. So for ranchers and range managers and natural resources professionals, but also for educators and the general public. It provides general information about what public lands are, where they came from, how people use public lands in terms of both managers and ranchers, potential ecological impacts, and trends in management. So just general things that many people will be interested in. But then there's also some things on here that are really very much geared at the ranching community. So nuts and bolts of public lands grazing, that probably will be most helpful for new ranchers. So if you're just getting into ranching and you're thinking about purchasing a ranch that has public lands allotments associated with it, or you have just gotten into ranching and you have public lands allotments and you're still learning the system, those pages will help provide you with some information about that. And then some information about NEPA and how NEPA works and walking through the NEPA process. So this is the overall structure of the entire website. I don't expect you to kind of read through all of this, but this is just to give you a sense of all the information that's contained on the website. There's a lot here. It's all linked together, so you can kind of get to different parts without having to know exactly where you're going, because everything is linked together, so it's all interconnected. So from here, I'm going to zoom in on NEPA and talk specifically about some of the resources that are available on the site related to NEPA, because this is such an important topic for anybody who's engaged in range management or ranching with public lands. It's hard to understate the importance of NEPA. If you have public lands grazing allotments, BLM land, or Forest Service land, at some point or another, you will encounter NEPA in your management of your ranch. It's going to happen. You may have already encountered it, you may not have, but it affects most of the actions that we take on public lands. So if you're going to renew your grazing permit, there's usually a NEPA process associated with that. Various types of range improvements may require going through this NEPA process, which is really an environmental review process. So it's not about regulating what you are and are not allowed to do. It's more about understanding the impacts of the things that you're doing out on the ground. But by going through this process of understanding impacts, it can have impacts on what you are ultimately able to do. So it can have impacts on the permitted numbers on your allotments, or your ability to install certain range improvements over time. And so understanding the NEPA process, understanding when to engage in the NEPA process, will give you the best opportunity to get the outcomes that you're looking for, that you're hoping for, as you continue to work with the public lands agencies. So this is the kind of landing page for the NEPA for ranchers section of the site. So this is specifically geared towards ranchers and providing you with the information that you need about NEPA. This is all based off of the NEPA for Ranchers handbook. So this was originally developed by Jim Sprinkle, and then there's a second edition that just was released that George Rule helped to lead and organize. So this resource is really the kind of Bible for Arizona ranchers and ranchers in other states also that are dealing with NEPA. It provides you with all the information you need to work through the NEPA process. And so what we tried to do is take this handbook, simplify it a little bit, and provide it in a web format to give you a way to get into all of the parts of the NEPA process, help you have resources available and kind of lead you to where you need to go if you need more information in the NEPA for Ranchers handbook here. So all of the information that's in this handbook is reflected on the website, and then the handbook provides more detail in some areas. So you can start with the website, and then when you find that you need more information, going to the handbook will help you get that information. And we provide those resources on the website as well. So the types of things that we cover, we have a pretty long list that basically works through the whole process of the environmental review that's associated with NEPA. So what the steps in the NEPA process are, what it means to go through this process, what's an EIS, what's an environmental assessment or an EA, when do those things come up? What are the key elements of the NEPA process, when you should get involved, how you can prepare, how public comments affect things, what its relationship is to other laws, appeals, and then implementation. So the full cycle of this environmental review process that you might have to engage in from time to time as you are working with your public lands allotments. Another important thing that we have on the website that I think will be really helpful to people is we've conducted a series of interviews with folks from the public lands agencies, so from the Forest Service, other ranchers, extension folks, and we have videos from these interviews that help to understand different components of the NEPA process, how those different parts of the NEPA process work, why they're important, how you can engage with them, or when you should engage with them. So it's not just us writing some things on the website. There's also some other types of resources that help to put things into context from different perspectives. So hopefully that's a good resource as well for learning about this NEPA process. You also, you can drill down, as I mentioned, with this model that we were using with providing the most important information first, the highlights, and then drilling down. So as you drill down through the website here, you can get to some pretty specific information and tools. So at the bottom of the site, you'll see things like biological assessment and an informational consultation process. So this is stuff like related to the Endangered Species Act that comes up related to NEPA, but isn't NEPA itself. So as you're drilling into the NEPA process, you might need more and more information about different other regulations and laws, depending on your specific circumstance. So we help to point in the direction of some of those things. So that's basically, what I wanted to say about the site and about NEPA. I just wanted to acknowledge some of our funding here and some of the folks that were involved in producing this with Larry Howery and George Rule and some of our student workers, Cameron Burleson and William Gray and Amanda Jean. A great group of folks to help to pull all of this together. And I hope that these resources are helpful for you as you work through this NEPA process in the future for those folks that have allotments.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Aaron. I appreciate that. And I don't see any questions as of yet. Anyone wants to hop in for Barbara or Aaron for questions on the website or on the materials presented, please feel free. And let's see, I'm looking at the time. Holy moly, we are ahead of schedule. But guess what? That's okay. So you will see in the chat, I have put a link for a survey for these all 3 nights. So if you're just attending tonight, go ahead and click and fill it out. Or if you attended last night and tonight, if you're planning on attending tomorrow night as well, just wait. And if you didn't catch it or you don't feel like dealing with it, you will get an email reminder with that survey link afterwards, after tomorrow night, asking you, because that provides us input, feedback, and we also use a lot of the feedback to decide things for the next one, which we hope will be face-to-face. It should be. So I'm still not seeing any questions. We had some great presentations. I've learned a lot. Usually all I hear is your horses destroy our land, and that's probably true sometimes. But All right, if we don't have any, I'll just let you know that tomorrow night we have small ruminant night. And so we will have Dr. Duarte Diaz, our dairy extension specialist, moderating. We'll be hearing about maternal nutrition from late gestation. In fact, I can actually just do this and share, and you can see that, get all those other boxes off there. I don't know if you can see them, but we'll get them out of your way. Okay, so tomorrow night, dealing with common sheep parasites, assessing and mitigating heat stress in small ruminant production systems, and current trends in small ruminant processing as seen by University of Arizona Food Products and Safety Lab. So we have a great agenda for tomorrow night as well. We've had some excellent speakers both nights. Do we have any last comments or questions in the chat or in the Q&A? Okay, what is the process to obtain grazing allotments on public lands? That's a small question, huh? Not. Who wants to take that one on? What is
Go
the
ahead, Alien.
I mean, I don't know that that's a question that I can just answer.
Well, why don't you give us some things that come into consideration or are part of the...
Yeah, so I mean, the big thing is grazing allotments are generally associated with a piece of private land. So you also need to have private land, and then the allotments are associated with that private land. And so when you purchase a ranch, generally speaking, you're going to purchase a plot of private land that has allotments that are linked to that private land. So that base property is what it's called. And so that's the big thing. You need to have that base property there to get the allotments. And then, you know, allotments may or may not be associated with a given base property. So once somebody has an allotment that they've been, you know, that it's associated with their property, it's gonna, as long as they continue to maintain their lease, will continue to be associated with that base property. Occasionally, allotments are detached from existing base properties, and then those become available to other folks that have qualifying base properties. And it's a, you know, it's a complicated process. I don't know if George is still on here. George probably can answer that question better than I can.
George? Here he comes.
George is like, I didn't want to work tonight.
There you go.
Most public land grazing allotments are already in the hands of other people, and they're 10-year permits. They are not necessarily renewable, but you just don't go online and get one. You pretty much have to have one in some sort of business opportunity at the moment. It's just not an open bid for federal public land grazing allotments. Now, state grazing allotments or grazing permits are under bid, and so every 10 years they come up for bid, but federal ones do not, and they just don't open up very often.
Okay, great. So Steve had a question. Are all the webinars tomorrow related to sheep or other animals? They are small ruminants tomorrow. So we decided to break it into areas. So we had beef cattle on last night, range tonight, and small ruminants tomorrow. But I know that you can get some great information, whether you're raising sheep or not. And also we had Jim from BI said assistance with allotments on public trust lands is a good reason to be a member of your County Cattlemen's Association, Arizona Farm and Ranch Group, and Arizona Farm Bureau, etc. So any other questions for us? I know that we don't want to hold you up from the rest of your evening. We certainly appreciate you joining us for the second night of the virtual range livestock workshop, and seeing nothing else, then we are very pleased and happy to have you here tonight and see you tomorrow maybe. So you guys, everyone have a great night, and thanks so much to our speakers for joining us, and also to BI for supporting this whole workshop as well.